and welcome to another episode of the Nonprofit Show. We've got a lot to talk about today, so let's get going. First and foremost, we want to thank our sponsors. Without you, we would not have the nation's only daily national conversation serving the nonprofit world, if you will. And world it is. We have people that come in from all over. And we are the American Nonprofit Academy, but you would never know that by all the people that join us from parts near and far. So welcome to our international viewers. We're so appreciative that you're here. And we realize that you are probably joining us, many of you, at the end of your day. So we say thank you for joining us. We're so appreciative. I'm Julia Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. My co-host Jarrett Ransom is out working on a project. She'll probably be back with us on Monday, which is going to be a super special edition. And we'll chat about that. Not probably, she will be. So anyway, thank you so much to that. More importantly, our guest today is Darrylee Cohen, CEO of Haute Media. And super, super cool to get you involved in this conversation, to talk to us about what you've seen as a professional, because you've been so linked to the nonprofit sector. I mean, I know you do all types of work, but I really identify with you as somebody who's really served the nonprofit sector.
Definitely, definitely. And I'm so excited to be able to serve it in a new way now. You know, this is just a whole new avenue for us. And I think it's going to be really cool. Even when we do get to be in person, it's going to be a really neat added touch for the future. This is the future now. So here we go.
Here we go. Buckle up. Well, this is really where we have so much we could be talking to you about. And I suspect we'll have you back on to even refine some of these things. But today, I really wanted to drill down into the power of video in the virtual event space to get some realistic ideas, some insider tips and tricks. And so yay team with us. So first things first, you're saying that we can have a live interaction during a virtual event?
Yes, and that's what I love the most. It's just such a nice, intimate touch that we couldn't provide in the past. You know, we can really feel like we're having that personal conversation with our speakers, our presenters, our entertainers. You just feel like you have them in your living room and you can interact with them, and it's really exciting.
You know, it's really interesting. I was chatting with you maybe, I don't know, a week or two ago, and we were talking about something that you had recorded for a nonprofit that does amazing work. And it has to do with, it's Feeding Matters. It has to do with children and feeding disorders, not eating disorders, feeding disorders. And you shot it in a kitchen, and it was just fascinating how you linked their mission to like the real world. And I found it was intimate.
Yes, yes. And that's what I love. You can be so creative. I mean, it's endless. You can be creative with where you're recording at or where you're broadcasting from, all the way from, you know, who you're inviting to speak, and you can pre-record things so that, you know, you're peppering in with experiences from the charity and interviewing different people that have experienced the things the charity can provide, and you can bring it all together into the most beautiful story that is very powerful.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. This and correct me if I'm using the wrong terminology, but this pre-taped piece of it, because when I'm talking to CEOs, as I do all over the country, the stress that they will admit to before going before a ballroom in some ways is absolutely crippling. And it's really distressing because they put so much energy and effort and just heartbreaking stress into a 1 hour, 2 hour gig, right? But
Absolutely.
I'm hearing from these folks that get to tape that they think, even though they had greater fear going in front of a camera, they get a do-over if they need to. They're more relaxed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's the key to your virtual event is planning ahead, whether you are pre-recording it or if you're live, is to rehearse, to be comfortable with the people behind the camera too. And that's so important too, especially for interviews and such. You need to connect with the person you're talking with or the person that's filming you so that you're comfortable and you're telling your story, and then even bringing out emotion, because so many of the nonprofit things that we do are emotional. And it's hard to bring people's emotions out when they're nervous or when they're, thinking about all the other things that could, technology that could go wrong and stuff like that. So when you have, that reinforcement, whether it's live or recorded, it feels so much better, and you can really get that emotion out.
It's interesting, Darrylee, because we talk a lot about this before the pandemic. One of my big soapboxes was two things. Do not get a non-professional to do your auction.
Yes.
Just because you're like, yeah, we got this great guy on the board who tells great jokes. No, you need a professional benefit auctioneer who's trained.
Yes.
Number one. And number two, that host or show wrangler, if you will, that's professional. Maybe they come from a local TV station or something like that. So I think that we felt in our sector that we needed those professionals. What does that mean using video?
Absolutely. And same thing, the person that's capturing it, you want to be a professional also. They need to know their equipment. They need to have backup equipment, lots of backup equipment.
Okay.
They need to test, all their equipment needs to be tested and double tested, especially when you're going live. You're relying on Wi-Fi and audio and all kinds of things. So you want to be able to rely on that professional to handle all that for you, because you're also working with the auctioneer, and you're also working with the, the venue and all of those different things. And you want to be able to focus on, bringing the connection with your audience and those type of things, rather than all of the technical stuff. And then when you know that that's all covered and it runs so smoothly and beautifully, you don't even have to worry about it, because surprisingly lots can go wrong. Especially in this new virtual world too. So you really want to have a professional handling it for you.
So let's talk about that a little bit, and drilling down more into the right background or studio setup. I've been fascinated by, and this is such a prejudiced thing to say, but you can look at, go on to an event and you can look at their background or how they're set up, and you immediately can discount it because it looks cheesy or whatever. Or you can be like, holy cow, they're in their warehouse and they're standing in front of pallets of food or whatever. And I'm wondering, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, and I'm wondering if you could talk about that. Like, how do we know what's going to be the right background?
I agree. I think when you put your thought into it, into your pre-planning, it's like you're filming a movie. You're telling a story. You want to be doing or a part of what you're talking about or what you're teaching people about. And you also want people to, like right now, you want them to feel like you're in your home. They're in your home with you, or they're in your, you just want to tell the story with it. So, and I'm always looking at backgrounds. That's just, maybe it's my eye that I look at, but I'm looking for messy things in the background, or uneven, unorganized, or a funky picture hanging sideways or something. So if you can't find just the right background, there's even virtual backgrounds, which is so cool. So I'm all about a background versus just a plain wall. Whatever it is that's telling your story, it's like you're presenting a movie or you're taking a picture, and how are you going to tell all of that in just one story, or one picture or one video? How do you tell your story that way?
So let me ask you about this then. What about if it's not perfect? What if it's like, I don't want to say it's a messy warehouse, but maybe it's a warehouse that needs more inventory. Like all the food that we used to have is gone, or that sort of thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what I love even more, especially about now, is the intimacy. We're not perfect. And we want people to know that. And that even tells your story more. You know, we need food. We need food on these shelves in the background. Or, you know, the imperfect is even better, I think, because it brings you closer to each other. It makes you realize we're not perfect, you know, and that's kind of what I love about what's happening virtually now, because we all know that we're not perfect. You know, we used to worry so badly when we would have a Zoom call if the dog ran in the background or things like that. But now I think people love it. They really feel connected. They feel like you're in each other's living room chatting with each other, if that's what you're going for. There's different stories you want to tell. Maybe you do want to tell, if you're a designer and you're talking about your beautiful designs, you are going for the perfect background and you want everything to look in place. But if you're a charity talking about needing food, then you want to show the real down and dirty, and you can. That's the beautiful part, you know. And you could take people on tours and all of those things. So I think it just is so real, and I love it.
So then let me play devil's advocate with you. Is there something such as being like too sexy, like too perfect, too, if it's just like so beautifully done that maybe you don't look like you need the money? I'm thinking of a nonprofit that had their virtual event, and then a lot of their pre-taped things were at this magnificent home of one of their board members. It looked like a resort, but it was actually a home. And I wondered, in the back of my head, I'm like, I wonder how many people are going to think these folks don't need the money.
I agree. I really do. I mean, you want to tell your story, and you want to get the emotion of the people that are watching. You want people to know what your charity is going through and why they exist. And even if you're doing it at a beautiful location, you could even have some pre-recorded pieces in there that are out on the field with, you know, I don't know, maybe it's something in Africa or something like that where you can't be there, but you could have some pictures or some pre-recording to show what your mission is. And you could do all that with video and really tell a powerful story.
So I want to move on to, you know, something that you've been bringing up, and that's, you know, communicating on camera versus in real life. And I'm wondering about, I mean, if we were having an event in real life, we'd be worried about the lighting, and we'd be worried about the sound, and is the sound tech working and all that. On video, you know, should we use, as they say, the lower thirds, which is, you know, identifying who's speaking? I have a fake lower third on this side of me. You know, what are your thoughts on that? Because for a lot of organizations, this is going to be new.
I love it. I think there's so many things we can do too. You can have, I love the graphics that you have up right now. You can bring in graphics, you can bring in music, you can bring in entertainment, but you can also have that interaction with your audience. My favorite thing that we've been using lately is a chat box. And the chat box is running down the side of the screen, and you can have all the people from all over the world piping in and commenting and asking questions. You can be responding with them, and that's that personal connection that you can't get at the large in-person events. And then you really feel like a part of it.
I love that. I watched something probably 2 weeks ago with an organization that really used their chat box well, because I think they had, that I could identify, I think they had 3 different people that, and this was a big event, but 3 different of staff that you could tell that's all they were doing. You know, they were responding. And then what happened is people started saying, hey, hello from Des Moines. Hey, hello from Miami. Hey, hello from the UK or whatever. Now, my question to you is, what does that do to the engagement piece? Because I'll be honest, I found myself kind of looking off at the chat box, and my attention was moved a little bit off of the main camera.
Sure, sure. I think you could have your presenter interacting with the chat box. So they're answering questions, and they're almost kind of directing you to it, but then pulling you back to them too. So you could even be showing the donations as they're coming in. You can have a moderator from your organization that's on saying, oh my gosh, we just got another great donation, without the presenter having to, change their focus. And then, that's coming in, and then they can look over at the chat box and say, oh my gosh, we just got all these great donations. And all right, let me show you why we're donating. And then you could go to a pre-recorded piece that's showing, your whole story. So as long as your presenter is aware of it and you plan ahead, that's my key, of course, is planning ahead, like you're filming a movie. Right. And they are interacting with the chat box, basically, like they're interacting in person.
Yeah, and that makes me think of another thing that you just mentioned, and I'd love to dig down a little bit more in that. And that is that, I think of like the old-fashioned Jerry Lewis telethon, tally wall, and the girls would come out and flip the, the boards and all that.
Yes.
Thoughts about that is doing that tally thing. Do you think it's good or bad or not good for the rebroadcast? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I love that you can control it. So if you're not getting a lot of donations, you can be pumping up that we need more. If you're getting a ton, you can be pumping that up too. So, if you have your moderators that are, right here next to you, and they can be telling you, okay, we need more, or tell what we just got, or you can even see that coming in on the chat box. So it's, I think it's something really cool that you can take control of, which sometimes in person you can't always do that. So I think it's neat.
That's a really good comment, because I can't really think of an event where I've been to where that has been a part of it. Now, somebody, delivers a big check or raises their paddle and bids up something. Yes, but that ongoing thing, it's hard to capture in a live event.
Yes, yes. And you were talking about if you need to be perfect. And my favorite word is perfectly imperfect, because everything in the background is perfect. We have planned ahead, we have scripts, we have teleprompters, we have lighting, we have control people that, production directors that are controlling everything. But the person on the camera is comfortable and engaged and intimate, and that's where you can not have to be perfect on camera, but everything behind is just down to the second, planned out and everything.
What are your thoughts on the actual timing of this? So I was watching and you can tell, I've lived my life on, as I call it, the rubber chicken circuit, and certainly, now that's all gone online. I see groups that will have like really long, I would call it intro times or wait times. And then it just seems like, the events go on too long. And I'm wondering if you're seeing that a more truncated event is better, or what are your thoughts on timing?
You definitely want something interesting, something that's going to draw the viewer in and keep them there. Thinking about exactly how you would plan your live event. What's going to make them want to come? Is it good food or good entertainment or good people or those type of things? And do that exact same thing with your virtual event. I love the entertainment aspect, because people are dying for entertainment right now. And, if you could bring in a musician to perform, and it would literally feel like you have that musician in your living room. And, even if you wanted to interact with them, you could do with the chat box interaction. But they're even doing cooking lessons. They're doing, comedians, everything. So I think if you have something just like you would be doing in person, something engaging that would make people want to stay and watch and learn something, or And then, of course, you want to bring in all the reasons why they're there and what the real reason is, but you can engage with that as well. So creativity is endless, and it really is like filming a movie or telling a story, and then being able to bring your audience in to interact with it is really cool.
What are you seeing? I mean, what you just said made me think of another question for you, and that is, what are you seeing the success or the management of events, virtual events that have a component where something is like delivered to the house? So it might be like, you know, a food situation, or dessert, or beverages, or maybe even a gift. Do you have any feeling on that?
I love that. I think it's so cool. It's a really neat added touch, but I don't think it's totally necessary. It's, you know, it's a huge expense, and I think it's very cool, but I think you can do it all virtually. Okay. You know, so even in your invitations, maybe if you're going to do bartenders, they've been having bartenders on teaching you how to make cocktails. So instead of you might have thousands of people from all over the world, and it's just not possible to send them all the mixings, but you could send the recipe card in your invitation so that everyone has their stuff there with them. It'd be awesome to send the shaker and the drinks and all that stuff, but it might not be feasible, and you can do it virtually and still get the same impact, I think.
I love that idea. Yeah, that's a great way. And again, that's just kind of rethinking what some options are, just being a little bit more creative and navigating. Our time is almost up, which is like super hard to believe. But
yeah, that went way too fast.
I know it does. And even for me, I have to say, it goes fast.
Yes.
I want to drill down a little bit on production costs and timeframes. I think a lot of us are so fearful of what it's even going to cost. And then we're not sure like how long it takes, because you can't just, what I've learned from you today, it's not just what's going on in that 30, 45 hour, 2 hour, whatever window. It's a lot of pre-work. And so give us some ideas for that.
Yeah, you really want to approach it just like you would your live events. I mean, some of these take a year to plan, and you really could continue the exact same planning process that you would with your in-person events. And you want to plan ahead with scripts and entertainment and things like that, and then rehearsals. You definitely want to rehearse ahead of time, test all your equipment from the location you're going to be at. If you have people coming in from other locations, you want to make sure their equipment is working too. Sometimes we can even send them equipment to make sure that they, have proper audio or proper video. It can get very detailed, but it's definitely all about the pre-planning, just like you would an in-person event, for sure.
I love that. I think that's brilliant. I think that's a great idea, to know that you can send technology to wherever you need to be, pulling them in.
And keep in mind, it really is an investment, but it's so worth it when you have done all the work to get people to come and join you, and then to lose connection or to, just have something go wrong would just be, something that you don't want to have to deal with, because you're working on all of the other things going on. So when you know that you have a professional handling it for you, it's incredible. And definitely something you don't want to skimp on.
Also thinking that one of the things that it's somewhat hard for us to figure is that when you do have something that's taped, you can then post that to a part of your website, or maybe edit out bits and pieces, and it becomes, I hate to say it, but almost like B-roll, where you're going to be able to use it in other places. And that's pretty hard to figure out the value of that, but there's got to be some tremendous value to that.
Absolutely, there is. And all the post editing afterwards, you can work it into clips. You can put it on your social media. You can send out newsletters. And the best part too about web is you can collect data and interact. I lost the word, but analytics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see where people were tuning in, how long they tuned in for. You can see exactly who they are. You can collect email addresses. You can, yes, you can do live virtual polls and questions and answers. And so you can really collect unlimited data too that can help you for your planning in the future. And then of course you can use it as a tool, you know, for the whole year for the future events too. So
Moving forward.
yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I'm thinking that this was a really timely discussion to have with you, because when we first started with this pandemic, you know, I saw so many nonprofits that used the word pause. We're going to not have our event, but we'll put it you know, later in, and some that did all that work in the summer and then couldn't do it, had to cancel it. Finally, those that were like, okay, we just got to do it online. All these mixes of approaches. But my sense of it is, and I'd love to kind of end with this, is I think that this is something that a lot of nonprofits have been surprisingly excited. Well, they've been surprised by the results. And so I don't see that there's just going to be a rush to dump the video part, that it's just going to be, let's do it better and maybe even more times a year. And I'm wondering if you're seeing that.
And I love that. And I think even when we get back to in-person events, I think the live aspect is unlimited. You can be reaching people from across the country with your event that wouldn't be able to be here in Phoenix or wherever. And I think it's the potential to reach more people is incredible. And I think the nonprofits are really seeing that they can reach people all across the world with their message. And that's powerful. And you can keep reaching them with that message with your recorded programs afterwards, and then interacting with them too. I mean, I think even when we get back to in-person, it would just be incredible to keep going with the virtual, because you're reaching audiences that you wouldn't be able to reach before. And I think nonprofits and entertainment as a whole is seeing that, you know, they're seeing the opportunities that we now have to reach people we never could reach before.
Well, and you know, that's one of the things that we need to, in the nonprofit sector, and I would say business in general, you're always looking for that new customer, that new engagement piece. And so if this is something that we can use as a tool versus, oh, we got you in the ballroom and now we can't get you back in the ballroom until next year when we do this event or whatever. So I think what you're saying is spot on. Hey, everybody, it's been amazing to share this time with you. Here's Darrylee Cohen's information. Haute Photo Video is really great. She's got some amazing articles on her website that really talk about some of the things that we've just been chatting about here today on the Nonprofit Show. Check it out. It's an amazing, amazing resource. And I think that you need to embrace this concept. Obviously, we've been talking about this now since March. But the idea of being more confident, being more strategic, it can be done. It really, really can. So we are thrilled that you would come on and share with us your knowledge and your talents with us, Darrylee, because if you're not doing this with your organization, I think it's huge missed opportunity. Huge.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I got to talk about it, and I'm just so excited about the future, because this is just, it's just going to keep going, and I think it's going to be really, really awesome.
I think so too, Darrylee. I think it's like, you know, there's always some silver linings and new opportunities, and it's how you embrace them. And I think that if anything, that's what the pandemic continues to teach us. Again, I'm Julia Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. My co-host, Jarrett Ransom, the nonprofit nerd herself, will be back with us on Monday. So we want to make sure that you tune in for that, because that's going to be a super special day. We have to thank our presenting sponsors. Without you, we would not have this amazing guest as we've had today. So thank you so much. Hey, Monday is our 200th episode. Hard to believe. So tune in. We're going to have a special show. We're going to do things a little differently, and it'll be a lot of fun. I think it'll be very unexpected, and I love Darrylee, what you said, it's going to be perfectly imperfect.
Yes, I love it too.
Yeah, it ought to be a hoot. And we're bringing onto the show some of our favorite guests, people that have really become thought leaders for us during this crazy year of 2020, and that we came up with something that would navigate us through 200 episodes is just amazing. So we hope that you can join us for that. As we end today, and we end every day, we always like to remind everybody, stay well so you can do well. We're so appreciative for your time. We'll see you back here tomorrow.